That's right. So welcome everyone. I'm so thrilled to have you all here today for our Sharing Stories, Anti-Racism and Universal Design for Learning CAST-free webinar. I'm Allison Posey. I'm a curriculum and design specialist at CAST, and I am honored to be your host today. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Go to the bottom of the screen. You can click participants, you can click on your name, and you can change it to make sure that you have the name you want us to reference you by, your title or location, or your theme birthday song if you would like to add that to your participant name. You can also click on the closed caption button. Thank you so much to our captioner for being with us here today. So please feel free to activate those closed captions. So, are you ready to honor your students and invite more students to display their genius to your learning environments? Are you ready to take responsibility to change mindsets and systems that stifle Black and Brown learners? The journey, and that's a very intentional word, the journey to design anti-racist learning environments is a lifetime commitment that is active, not passive. And I'm thrilled to have you here with us today as we hear from CAST author Andratesha Fritzgerald. She will share some behind-the-scenes stories and important strategies from her book, Antiracism and Universal Design for Learning, Building Expressways to Success. I'm getting choked up just saying the title. I also encourage you to listen to the elegance and intentionality of her words as we speak today, as she welcomes, honors, and inspires all committed educators who believe in success for all. So before we jump into the conversation, you know, we have a few logistics to really work out here. So we want to make sure each of you are able to contribute to the discussion. We welcome active participation, whether you're joining us live today, thank you for being here, or watching our recording at some other time, thank you for being here. Please use the text chat box and be sure to click on all participants and attendees or all panelists if you want something to go private to us, and share your questions, share your reflections, share what you're processing. You can also share through Twitter. There's the @cast_UDL, the @Fritztisha, I'm so sorry, and then hashtag #AntiracistUDL. So please feel free to share through Twitter, especially if you're watching the recording, because we hope today is the spark of a conversation that will extend well beyond this hour. We also want you to know that in addition, you can access all of our materials, including the key ideas from our discussion, links to articles and resources that'll be mentioned in the webinar, links to CAST resources and the book discount, all in our digital handout. So the bit.ly link is in the chat box for you all there.
Hey, Allison,
yes.
I just want to also encourage people to capture their learning wherever it makes sense for them. We'll be interacting on Twitter. We'll be here together in the chat. But if you would like to draw, please draw. If there's a poem that is sparked in your heart, please do that. And then find ways to collaborate with others around this content. But this is your time to grow, to learn, to share, and to build. So don't feel limited by just the areas where we're interacting together. Invite us into your story here in the chat and in other ways as well.
Thank you. And if you didn't know, that was our author, our educator, mother, Jeopardy enthusiast, speaker. I'm honored to say my friend and colleague, Andratesha Fritzgerald, whose work is to awaken and celebrate and activate the brilliance of teachers, leaders, and students. Andratesha, welcome today. So great to have you here.
It's so great to be here, Allison. Thank you so much for having me.
So we had a little activity at the very beginning where you could click on our link to find your birthday jam.
Yes, so it's important that anytime we come into a space together, and you're going to hear a lot about honor today, that we find ways to honor your story, and even if it's just in a small way. So our hope was that you would go to birthdayjams.com and yes, birthdayjams.com, and find the song that was #1 on the charts on your 14th birthday. The internet says that this song defines your life. And so because it's on the internet, we're going to assume that there is either some wisdom to gain or some wisdom to reject here. So my song, Allison, was End of the Road by Boys to Men, and it stayed on the chart for quite some time. And so during my birthday week, my 14th year, it went to #1. And if I was born 1 week earlier, guess what my song would have been?
I have no idea.
Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. I'm just saying.
That's going to be the song in my head now.
So I was thinking at it like, does it define my life? I don't know. But I sure can make some parallels. How about you, Allison? What was your song?
Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say that I did it incorrectly and did it for my actual birthday. So I'm going to need to go, and not the 14 years. So I'm going to need to go back in and redo it.
That's okay.
So
What song did you get for your birthday?
I got a John Denver song, You Fill Up My Senses. And it's actually a song that my dad and I used to sing together. We used to go on bike rides. He would put me on the back. I was just put in a milk carton. This is before anyone did anything safe, when they were riding with children on bicycles. And we would sing that song together. So I have to say, when that song came up, my dad has been a big role model for me in my life. I got a little choked up because it really did have a lot of meaning. And maybe I'm not remembering what that 14-year song was, because I really wanted it to be that John Denver, You Fill Up My Senses song.
Well, you get to choose. And sometimes accidents happen and they're happy. So this is the one for you. That's your song. We're going to use that one as your definition.
I'll post my real one to Twitter later.
Thank you all for sharing your songs and finding connections. I think that when we're viewing this topic, when we're talking about anti-racism and universal design for learning, sometimes it can be heavy. And I just want to encourage you that having the heavy conversations does not mean that you void joy. And so you bring joy with you when you have the heavy conversations. You bring your excitement and your enthusiasm even to things that break your heart. And 100% of you is welcome here today. Every part, you don't have to put anything away. You don't have to compartmentalize it. Think about it. You're in a professional development webinar, and Tupac and Biggie and Faith and Puffy and John Denver are all commingling peacefully here because you are here and we are here. So we are excited to have you and excited to jump into the content today.
Yes, thank you all so much. This is so fun.
So on the screen here is a picture. And depending on how you would like to learn or how you would like to take this part in, I'm inviting you to take a look at the picture, but I want to read to you a small section of the book today. And I'm using the book Antiracism and Universal Design for Learning that I wrote. I'm reading from it so that I can capture the message without trying to memorize it. So this is my support for myself today. So imagine walking down a dark alley. You feel like it may be dangerous, but you also feel like you have no alternatives to get where you are going. There isn't much light, just a flickering bulb in a streetlight that is casting shadows right as you walk. There are sounds that you really don't recognize, but you have to keep walking. There is no other choice. As you walk, you hear the sounds of voices. You turn around, but you don't see anyone there. You pull your hood down so that you can see more clearly, just in case. You arrest the thought of danger, the possibilities, and just keep walking. You hear some shuffling and turn around just in time to see a cat scurrying through some leaves. You pick up your pace just a bit and begin thinking that your car is nearby. Just get to the car, just get to the car, you chant to yourself as motivation. As you near the end of this tight passageway, you see that your car is in sight. You hear what is undoubtedly footsteps behind you. You pick up your pace to a jog. You hear hurried breathing and turn around to see someone barreling towards you as quickly as they possibly can. You're not sure if you will make it to your car. You are not sure if this is a life or death situation. Your muscles are tense, your adrenaline soars, your mind races as you wonder. Pause. That feeling, that fear, that rush, that adrenaline, that is the same feeling that many Black and brown learners experience in the learning environments that we create. That fear, that uncertainty, that not knowing what will come next or if it will harm me or help me, that feeling. Pause there. That feeling, that is what I want you to think about today as we structure learning environments, as we rethink teaching and learning for Black and brown children, as we talk explicitly about why anti-racism is needed and why universal design for learning helps us to build environments where people are safe, where learners know for sure that they belong, where they don't have to run away or have their amygdala hijacked because of fear and uncertainty, but they will know that they belong, that they are safe, and that the environment has thought ahead for them. Can you imagine the difference of walking in a learning environment that's thought ahead for you, that's planned for you, that is welcome for you, that turns on lights for you? Can you juxtapose that to what we just talked about, walking in the alley where there's darkness, where there's people out to get you, where the system is set up for you to fail and content when you do so? Today, we're going to talk about anti-racist, universal design for learning and what those strategies do and the possibilities they open up when we design differently.
I do want to give a moment to pause there.
Okay.
Because that is powerful. I know my physiology is activated right now. If I close my eyes and imagine that feeling, and then imagine I'm asked to learn the quadratic equation or to write a history essay or to turn and talk, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I want to get out of there. So bringing that feeling to life for me, thank you for that. And this kind of writing, this kind of invitation to better understand the lived experiences of so many students in our systems is what this book brings to life for us. So thank you all for sharing in the chat box. And I'm going to invite us to take a look now at the birth of your story.
So each of us, as we talked about the alley experience, that fight or flight experience, as Patricia placed in the chat, and identifying the feelings of the learner, the experience of the learner. This is time to think about the learners that we support, yes, whether you're in pre-K or elementary, high school, or higher education, or whether you're placing yourself in the position as learner. Each of us has a story. I was listening to Girl Trek. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but it is a podcast. And they have something called a Black History Bootcamp where they explore different stories in Black history and bring them to life. So shout out to Vanessa and Morgan. I feel like they're my friends. So, you know, when you listen to a podcast and you're like all into it, speaking back to the radio and everything, I'm all in with them. So recently they shared the story of the woman on the left. And I want you to just take a look at her. I'm going to describe her. She is a young Black woman. Her glasses are Black plastic frames, and they're reminiscent of the time in the 60s. Her hair is curled just lightly. She's 15 years old. Her name is Claudette Colvin. And what really got me about Claudette was that she, 15 years old, was actually the first one to refuse to give up her seat in Montgomery. She was 15, a young Black woman who refused to give up her seat when a white rider got on and demanded that she move. Now, there were other seats available, but this rider wanted Claudette to move to the back. And you know what? She refused. When I learned the backstory about why she refused, yes, she was young, but she had been studying with a peculiar educator who chose to structure the environment to share with her learners about the struggle. And not just the struggle that birthed the civil rights movement, but also about the rights that were due to them, that were inalienable by the Constitution of the United States. Claudette Colvin had a classroom that sparked her interest, that gave her the desire, that gave her the wisdom, and then the courage to sit when she was told to move, to stand up for rights that she knew she was due, that the society and the system and the bus system of Montgomery did not uphold. Claudette sat in courage. And one thing that they said on the Girl Trek podcast was that none of us are born woke. There is something that wakes you up. When the instruction changed for Claudette, everything that we experience in America changed for us. And so right next to Claudette, there is a book, a box of matches. And matches, they're packed in next to each other. There's a strike board. She was courageous. She took a stand. She took a spark of knowledge, of wisdom, and she lit a fire that could not be contained, a fire that changed America as we know it. And the best thing about it is that Rosa Parks began to raise money for her defense fund. Before Rosa said no, Claudette sat on the bus. Rosa Parks raised money for her. Martin Luther King came to visit her in prison, a 15-year-old girl. Our babies can handle the revolution. And what her pastor said to her when he came to bail her out was simply, Claudette, I'm very proud of you. Our learners need to hear that. I'm very proud of you, and you have brought the revolution to Montgomery. This is the birth of your story. And the question I have for you today is, the place where you are, have you brought the revolution? Have you enacted anti-racist education and learning practices and strategies? Have you created an environment that sparks a wildfire for change right where you are? Have you been lit by someone else? Where is the revolution? Where are you? If you haven't, we're all in different places on our journey with anti-racism, right? We're all in different places. And today, this is the birth of your story in a different way. Yes, you'll hear some strategies. Yes, you'll hear about universal design for learning. Yes, you'll hear from some stories, but I'm looking for your yes. Where is your no? Where will you push back? Where will you light a wildfire? That's where we are today.
Yes. And with that, I appreciate that this is a journey that we're all on, and we're all at different places. And as you noted, no one is born woke. Something wakes you up. So wherever you are on this journey, you've given us this license to learn. I have a 16-year-old daughter who is pursuing her own license, and I can say this is very hard for me as her mom to let her go and to give her that license to learn. So you have a chapter aligned with the UDL engagement guidelines, but it's not called that, it's called a license to learn. So as you think, how do you recommend using UDL and sharing learning responsibility with your students to engage students, but also to develop your own anti-racist practices?
When we think about engagement, it's important to think about setting the stage. So if our learners are coming in and the feeling they get more describes what we talked about in the alley, how then in fear do we expect them to engage? One of the things about the Universal Design for Learning guidelines that I love is that they empower the learner to be in charge of their own learning, to make any environment that they go into work for them. And so with anti-racist practices, we have to have protection and affirmation for Black and Brown voices that give them a license to learn. And so engagement is all about recruiting interest. And in recruiting, just like recruiting trip to a college or recruiting someone to fill out a survey, there has to be an inherent value for the voice. And so when we think about recruiting interest, before I can recruit your interest, I have to see you as valuable. I have to see what's in you as something that deserves to be mined, like a gem that we will blast away at any barriers and any rock until we get to it. And so then we talk about sustaining effort and persistence. What does that look like? not for me to sustain your effort, but for me to empower you to sustain your effort as best you can. And let me give you an example. As you are experiencing this webinar, some of you are sustaining your effort and persistence by participating in the chat. Some of you are looking up Claudette Colvin because that's what sparked your interest and that's what you need to build on. Some of you are typing notes. Some of you are texting friends to say, hey, you must join and you have to log on. You are sustaining your interest by maybe looking at the picture, looking at the image and trying to make the metaphor turn into a movie for you. But you've learned strategies that work for you. In anti-racist universal design for learning, what I am proposing is that we have to help learners find those strategies that work for them and then allow the learning environment to be transformed so that they get what they need from you. They know how they learn and where they learn best and where they need to sit. Far too many classrooms, particularly for Black and Brown learners, are compliance-based, meaning that the teacher has decided where you will sit, how you will learn, how you'll take it in. And there are very few supports for changing that. And so being purposeful and motivated means that there is a license to learn the way I need to, that I get to execute the expertise that I know about myself and learning. That means I'll try some things, I'll fail miserably, I have to reevaluate what works for me and what does not. If I'm not on target and on purpose, then I have a way to check in and see, does this work for me and doesn't it? So I'm just going to share with you from the book just 4 things that learners in an anti-racist, universally designed learning environment will have. We acknowledge that learners don't come here empty-handed. Every student brings something to the table. The next thing that licenses learners to engage is knowing that they are welcomed and valuable, that the learning environment has been prepared with them in mind and it will change with them in mind, that we want to spark their curiosity and make the community of learning theirs, that everyone that's a part of the classroom will expect to teach because something's valuable that you're bringing to the table, to share, to grow, and to learn. And what that looks like depends on them. The last thing is that your destination is important. There is not a one of us that gets a driver's license for someone else to cart us around all the time. We have a destination that we want to get to. We want to get there the way that we choose to, whether it's taking the bus or to take the bike or to drive ourselves. We have control of how we get to the destination. Our classrooms for our Black and Brown learners deserve the same.
And as you're speaking and I'm looking at this image here, I'm imagining so many different possible road trips. You could imagine how long this road might go on and how uncomfortable and disengaged and wanting to hide you might be versus how much it might become engaging, and it might be something you're participating in, sometimes sleeping in when you need to, eating when you need to, talking to, bothering the person next to you when you need to, but that is all part of the flexibility and part of that journey that can then take us somewhere that we want to go, someplace that's meaningful, someplace that activates and gives us that license to really want to learn and go somewhere. So this is brings a whole new image to what it means to have multiple means of engagement. And when you describe representation, the UDL representation principle, you use these words that just resonate with me. You're honoring by invitation. And it's a way of framing representation in a way that I hadn't thought of before, that when we give this access to be able to perceive and build background, we are honoring, in fact, by invitation. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your 30-hour road trip that you and your family took one time, and how this can be a metaphor that we can continue to build upon as we think about these roadways, these journeys, and the design of our learning experiences and our classrooms.
My family, there's my husband and I, and then we have 2 little ones. Well, they're not so little. They're 12 and 13, but they're still my babies. And we take road trips primarily because the cost for 4 to fly can be astronomical pre-COVID. Now it's pretty cheap if you're willing to risk your life.
If you want, exactly. I don't know.
But we found ourselves on the road for 30 hours within a 2-day stretch.
It's a
And what
long
we found as we were traveling, we were maybe about 20 hours into it. And we noticed that it was difficult to see out of the window. So we paused at a gas station. And at first we were thinking maybe our eyes are fatigued, maybe there's something going on. I thought I was having a hard time just seeing. But when we pulled over, we found that our windshield was filthy. It impaired the way that we experienced the outside. It impaired what we thought about ourselves because what we could see was obscured. And many times in a classroom, in a learning environment, the learner begins to take messages about themselves to think that they aren't a good student, that they can't learn, that they can't do it, maybe that they're stupid or they're a failure, that this is impossible. And it's simply because the representation has been blurry, that the teacher hasn't taken the time to give multiple means of representation in order for one of them to make a clear path. What do I mean? Do we empower students to discover and use and embrace resources that give them access to what it is that we're trying to communicate? And you know what, yesterday, I was doing some stuff. We were planning to launch our new website, buildingblocksofbrilliance.com, shameless plug. But we were planning to launch, and there were some things that we needed to do to transfer ownership. I did not have to call customer service. There were directions in print. There were videos for me to watch. So whereas I thought I'm a novice, I do not know how to do websites, the support was already there. That's multiple means of representation to change and vary the way that learners have the opportunity to choose how they take in the information. And so we respect our students' time and talents by designing lessons that awaken their curiosities, that invite their background knowledge, that inspire ingenuity, and then relate to real-time dilemmas to increase their intellectual capacity. Are you building supports by giving multiple means of representation? If you look at the slide here, there are 3 different tools to tell time. For some people, they can use all 3 and not have any problem at all. For others, they may need a digital option. For others, they may need a spoken option. And in terms of crafting classroom experiences, we have to think about how do the learners experience the content? And do they need to call customer service every 5 minutes? That tells us something about our design. That tells us something about the multiple means of representation. So perhaps a video works for some, and for others, it is annoying. Perhaps having it in print along with the video gives them the option, but we don't choose the option. We customize the learning experience for the learner to take what they need, to pair the supports that they need. Multiple means of representation means that I may want to sit down and watch the video and listen to the song and look at the print and look at the pictures. I may want to do all 4. For some, I may just need to do 1. For others, I may just need to collaborate with someone to sit down and hear their take on it, and then I'll get it. Whatever it is, we design something that's customizable for the learner, but we don't decide what makes it custom for them. And that's the power of multiple means of representation.
Love it. And, I'm thinking even here, I might not have first chosen to use the sundial. It's something I'm not familiar with. But if that's what you had chosen and I see you using it, that's going to then open that door. It's going to invite me to have a safe conversation with you on, tell me more about what is that and how does it work? And then I'm more, I might be more inclined to share, I do like those Roman numerals, and here's how I'm using my clock. And therefore we're deepening our learning and we're opening that collaboration and we're able to bring in, so there was a question in the chat about culturally relevant pedagogy and how this aligns. So then it's really inviting us to bring our backgrounds, our lived experiences, because you noted that no learner comes empty-handed.
Right.
So I wonder how you see UDL and culturally relevant pedagogy maybe aligning with this.
Culturally responsive teaching and culturally relevant pedagogy align with universal design for learning because, again, you're designing with the learner in mind. Coming up soon, probably in November, Zaretta Hammond and I will be doing a webinar together where we talk about the overlap of these two frameworks. Many times people see them as separate, but you cannot be truly universally designing, you cannot be truly anti-racist without having the culturally responsive lens as a part of it. And so what I will say is that the importance is that the student is doing the cognitive heavy lifting, right? And so what that means is that there are resources and supports that we look at the methods for the multiple means of representation. So for some, it may be a song or a chant that allows them to engage in a way that culturally works for them. For some, there's that collectivist lens where they may just need to affiliate with someone to talk it through, to bounce it off, or the individualist where they move to the side and say, I just need to dig through this by myself before I show you what I know, which we'll talk about in action and expression. And so that culturally responsive lens just means that you are advocating for what the student needs in your design and then giving them space to allow it. I will say this, with universally designed learning environments, choice always invites voice. And so instead of giving the prescribed choices all the time, always, and I learned this from Katie Novak, always leave a fourth or a fifth or a sixth or a 25th option to say, if none of these meet your needs, then propose something to me and we'll talk together to see if it meets the rigor of the standard. Voice and choice are always intertwined.
And it does not align with a learning style. So someone did mention learning styles in here. It really is context dependent. It depends on the day. It depends on what you're asking me to do. It depends on who is next to me, if I'm hungry or not, what I'm thinking about doing next. It's so much more complicated and therefore so much more rich because of that. And you then, you share that action and expression can be this honoring by releasing. And in your book you share, and I love this phrase, honor is an accelerant. It is what jumpstarts relationships, conversations, trust, and interest. So as you're describing, bringing in that culturally relevant pedagogy, and yes, to everyone asking, we will make sure we get that information to you all for that really exciting webinar that we're all going to jump on and learn from. But as you describe bringing in those different voices, that opportunity, whether it's the 25th choice or just opening up that conversation, you're starting those relationship conversations, you're starting that trust and that interest. So how do you recommend us elevate action and expression so our students, like you describe an example in your book, your student Audrey, is able to see failure actually as feedback for excellence. So what they're doing and the risks they're taking may not always work. You know, you may need to pull over on the side of the road and really wipe off that dirty windshield or poke some holes or stick your head out the window. But how do you see us able to honor by releasing through action and expression?
Black and brown children are brilliant. They have been in systems that don't see them as such. And so when I talk about action and expression, about honoring by releasing, what I'm saying is that giving learners options for how they show what they know is an accelerant. It has to be in the community of safety. We can't think that compliance and beat down methods and threats of suspension, we can't educate adequately that which we fear. And if we are afraid of our students, if we don't see them as experts of themselves, if we don't see them as valuable and brilliant and filled with knowledge to share, then we cannot honor them by releasing them. We'll be afraid of what they'll share. We'll be afraid of how they'll do it. We will tell them it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. We will treat them from a deficit mindset when actually every learner comes to us filled with assets, filled with funds of knowledge that they're waiting for us to access. And when they get to choose how to show you what they know, we're not relaxing the standard. We're not changing the rigor. We're simply giving them open avenues to show what they know in ways that will many times amaze us and dazzle us. And I will share my own story. When I was in the 9th grade, Miss K, who I talk about in the book, we read Romeo and Juliet, and I totally expected a multiple choice quiz or test, and she passed out an assignment. The assignment had about 9 options on it. And as soon as she passed it out, like every learner does, I was kind of looking through thinking, do we have to do all of this? And I asked her and she said, no, you have to choose one. And to my surprise, there was one where you could draw. There was one that you could do a Verona Times newspaper. There was one that you could dress up as a character and deliver one of the monologues. But there was one that I saw that spoke to me. Now, I know you can't tell this today because of the jacket and the dress and the earrings, but I do enjoy a good beat and a hot 16. And you know what I mean, if you know what I mean. And so one of the options was to write a song or a rap from the point of view of one of the characters. The only requirements was that you had to include details from all 5 acts. So of course, I used the instrumental. Now this will tell you it was like 1992. My mom had bought me the clean version because she would not buy any with the explicit sticker on it. But she bought me the clean version of Dr. Dre's Ain't Nothing But a G Thing. So it had the instrumental on the back. I took that instrumental and on top of it, I laid down all of these verses about Romeo and Juliet from the viewpoint of Juliet. So I introduced my teacher, Miss K, to Dr. Dre, Ain't Nothing But a G Thing. Oh. In a way that worked for me. I was able to show my brilliance and literally dig into the text and find these details because the avenue was open for me to express myself in a way that was meaningful, enjoyable, comfortable to me. And what I'm asking is for Black and brown children, they have had to show what they know by bubbling in. They've had to show what they know by writing research papers with the research means. And I don't say that those things are not important, they are. But what I am asking is that you pair those experiences with ways that allow them to show the world that they are brilliant. Your 4 walls of the classroom are not all that there are. And so let them podcast, let them blog, let them draw, let them post, let them sing, let them rap, let them dance, let them be 100% of who they are, and let it be welcome in your learning environment. And this is where I get fired up. For far too long, children have taken away messages about themselves for assignments that they could not complete, for things that had no value to them at all. And what Universal Design for Learning does when it meets anti-racism is make sure that the assignment itself is not the oppressive tool to tell them a message about themselves where they are not good enough and they don't know enough. It's simply not true. And our design, our strategies, our decisions, our choices get to change that for the next generation. And that's where my passion comes alive.
Yes, it does.
Ms. Kay did it for me. She opened up a door for me to, and here's the thing. When I completed the assignment, she didn't just stop there. I'm telling you, she played that doggone tape for every class that came in, whether it was English 9, 10, 11, or 12. Then she talked to my mom about it at parent-teacher conferences, and my mom's like, what? My mom listens to the tape, and she's like, this is great. And then my mom would sing the lyrics back to me. Do you see what I'm saying? That when we talk to our families, when we tell them, hey, your daughter created this thing that I think is brilliant. That's powerful coming from a teacher. It lays down you as the expert. It lifts up the student as having something valuable to share. And it pulls us into a community where what we have and what we know and what we enjoy and what we listen to and what we can do is valued, is relevant. That is anti-racism. That is universal design for learning. And when those roads converge, then we have children, we have learners in higher education who leave empowered to pursue the road that they choose for themselves with the tools that they need to be successful regardless of the environment. That's what's important to me.
Yes, and that happens. So I don't know about you all, but I was ready to get up and do a little jig as you were talking because I was so excited about this, because this gets at the brilliance of every student in the way that they need to show us. So I invite you all, here's how I'm making meaning of what we're talking about right now. And it is messy, and it's not in a neat bulleted 12-point font kind of organization, but I'm not going to lose this piece of paper. This is important to me. This is going to be meaningful for me. learning. So please share with us, post your pictures to Twitter, share ideas here, record a little song and email it to us. Please connect with us and know this is for every learner. Young kids do this, higher ed and beyond, graduate students, medical students, we all adult learners do this. This is for everyone. This is for everyone.
And let's push a little bit on those in human resources, those that are structuring PD for teachers. The same goes for adults. We have hired for far too long on charisma and maybe a nice resume. And then when it comes to educating Black and brown children, the heart is not there. So perhaps we need to take a look at our hiring practices, take a look at our professional development practices. Where are we honoring the teachers who are in front of us to release their genius, to release the genius of those who are in front of them?
And there may be barriers in COVID and remote learning. We are facing some right now, but we need to look for those ways to release that genius. And I'm so excited here. This is one of my favorite slides, is we get to hear some of the behind the scenes. So you all don't get this from the book. This is unique right now. So can you share with us a little bit about how and why you've selected some of these images to share with us today?
As I said earlier in the presentation, none of us are born woke, so to speak, right? But there's something that wakes you up. And for me, it's someone that wakes you up. And in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll need pointer support on this one. In the upper left-hand corner is a picture with my kindergarten teacher. And she was also my mom's kindergarten teacher, which I think is really cool. But there was something about her. She expected excellence from me on the first day that I walked into the classroom. She gave me this language, and there was a pledge that we said every single day. From kindergarten to 8th grade. After my kindergarten class, I believe she became principal of the school when I was in either the 1st or the 2nd grade. And every single day over the PA system, we had to say, I'll just say in part, to seek the goals of brotherhood, to stand for what is right, from now until Judgment Day, right on. She entrusted me with language to stand against injustice before I even knew what injustice was. And so I say that to you in the spirit of Lydia Harris, for each of you, no matter what grade level or level of education you have, to design with the barriers of injustice in mind and inspire the young people to see a vision for themselves fighting against it. So I keep that pledge to her. I think about those words every day. She passed away recently, but those words still resound in my heart. The picture to the right is me graduating from kindergarten, and I'm in the family sassy pose. I'm sure my mom said, put the hands on the hips and put your foot out. If you know, you just know. But I want to point your attention to the background. Fittingly, there's a picture of my grandmother as a baby there, and then so many pictures, so many books there from my great-grandmother. She belonged to the Doubleday Book of the Month Club. My great-grandmother's books are there. I mimicked her reading. She had a legacy of learning that she passed on to me. And my grandmother on my father's side as well, an avid reader. Every time we went somewhere, she had a book with her. And even before I could read, I would pretend to read just to keep up with them. And so that legacy of reading and seeing myself as successful was important even from an early age. To the right, we have a picture, and one of my co-teachers is on here, Lori Uragli-Eiler. You'll remember this. We had every learner on our team take a picture in a cap and gown so that their 9th grade year, they would get a picture of success. They would get a picture of themselves, and not all of them were happy campers or participants, and some people did opt out, and we do honor that. But we wanted them to have a memento of what it looks like to make it, because we knew that everything we could do that was in our power, that they would. And so that's a picture of one of my less reluctant learners who took the picture her 9th grade year, and then we take them, and I still post them on Facebook from time to time, and they give me lots of feedback, but we do. The picture that is at the bottom is just a day in our classroom where the students were retelling a Native American myth. They put their own twist on it, but the only caveat was that I had to be a prop. I could not move. I had to sit there and allow whatever took place to take place. When we lay down our power in favor of empowering our learners, then they will have an experience that sometimes reduces us to just being a prop in the room, and it's okay. And it's okay. And so they told the story in a way that worked for them, with language that they chose, with costumes that they used, and they made me a part of the story in a way that was meaningful to them. I'm asking you to create learning environments where students feel free to do just that. And then next to them is another student who turned himself into a bird king. He really enjoyed this costume. And see, there's going to be days where kids just want to be free and have a good time and be funny. And if wearing the bird king hat makes you happy and you're on task and you're willing to learn and grow with me, then let's do it. Sometimes we have to just allow the joy to take place, even if it's different. The picture that is right next to that on the left is a picture of David Gordon and I. He is the president of the publishing wing of the cast.org. And so it was at a time when I was really discouraged about this message, really discouraged about the book. And he spent time just walking with me. In your circle, find people who are willing to walk with you, to encourage you. I want to just acknowledge David Gordon right now, and also Katie Novak, who walked with me, encouraged me. She stayed on the computer with me one day from 8 in the morning to about 7 o'clock at night, just to support me, because that's what I needed to finish this book. Where are your people, your circle, who will give you support and then turn right back around and give it back to them? The last picture that I want to share with you is just a picture of my family, my son and I, my husband and my daughter. And we wanted to make sure that there were images of our family, our Black family, reading together, enjoying together. Make sure that the images that you are projecting in your classroom show Black and brown people as brilliant, as brilliant. And so we took a picture together reading, and we chose some books that were meaningful to us: Native Son, Surviving, Tears of a Tiger, by authors that really minister to us, that give us the joy that we need to move forward. And I'm hoping that you will find books and pictures and lessons that reveal the genius of Black and brown learners at whatever level you're serving.
Awesome. And I invite you all to think of the pictures you would share to really help represent, how are you scaffolding learners? How are you, what brought you to this point? You know, what were those supports? What did you need? And how are you giving that gift of those high expectations for all in your work? And we're going to move very quickly here through this slide of the orange barrel. Why would we ever put this ugly orange barrel that I don't like to run into when I'm driving?
You know what? When we see the orange barrel, we know that there is work being done to create something better, right? We know that it won't always be this way, and we know that it'll be better when the work is done. And so I want to pause and take a look at the construction zone of anti-racist UDL for maybe just a few tips about implementation. Universally designed lessons will make your class safer for learners. They'll make it safer for all learners, but especially Black and brown learners. You don't know the trauma that they are coming into the classroom with, but you better find the brilliance that they're leaving your classroom after experiencing you. You don't know the story of what they've experienced, and you don't have to. They may not share it with you, but you can design your class and your learning environment so that they are successful, that they experience success that they are the architect of. And while implementation can be messy and inconvenient and nerve-wracking, with practice and reflection, it won't always be this way. This is the importance of a community. And the last point that I want to make about the orange barrel is it will all be worth it. Anytime you're on an expressway and there are orange barrels, it's only like that for a limited time. And so when you're implementing anti-racist universal design for learning, there's going to be fear about getting it wrong. There will be fear about using the wrong terminology. There will be fear about missing a student, missing one, maybe not getting them, not reaching them. And I'm telling you, with universal design for learning and anti-racist strategies together, planning, replanning, failing, learning, it will be messy, but it will be worth it. You will reach, you will inspire, you will encourage, even though it's messy.
And I'm going to look at these cones as different every time I pass one. And as someone noted, they're in Boston all the time, but I'm going to thank them now. And it's going to make me reflect on what I am continuing to work on and build so that I'm making it better. So Are there any behind the scenes moments? And I know we're getting toward the end, so it's, you know, it's just gonna have to be a slight teaser, but what's something maybe that didn't make it in the book or that maybe pushed the book in a different direction?
So the last part of writing, um, George Floyd was killed by police officers. The videos were out. And I remember that Saturday, there were protests, there were videos, and I spent much of that Saturday weeping for a number of reasons, weeping every time I looked at my son or my daughter walk past me, every time I looked at my husband, their beautiful black and brown faces that could be misinterpreted as dangerous simply because of the color of their skin. And I spent the day crying and reflecting and allowing myself to grieve. And so there was a poem that I wrote that I really wanted to put in the book, but at the end of the day, it really didn't make it. So I'm just going to share it with you really quickly. The poem is called A Word to Unsuspecting Revolutionaries. You found yourself in a fight. Stay focused. Invest your engagement. Don't change the conversation. Don't allow the conversation to be changed. Remain, listen. Privilege seeks one thing, comfort. Your fight involves disruption. Stay focused. Your message will be twisted, dismissed, and questioned. Why looting? Why rioting? Why protest? The real question is why murder? And our Black children are asking, praying not to be asking, why me? Focus, stay focused, keep mourning, keep grieving, keep organizing, keep praying. Justice is our soundtrack, our space that says we will take the space we need to be well. Listen, onlookers, bystanders, would you ever dare go to a funeral and give reasons not to mourn? This is mourning. Revolutionaries, you don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need opinions. You need justice. Justice is our soundtrack every single day, every single way, every single child. Listen, this is mourning. This is grief. In this world, there is injustice. But this, revolutionaries, is our response. Action from ashes. The fight was mine, and now that you're awake, it's yours.
Thank you.
Now that you're awake, the fight is yours. We started with Claudette Colvin's story, her willingness to be courageous enough because of the education she received, because of a teacher who took a chance to design a learning environment that sparked a real awareness of the rights that she deserved. Anti-racist universal design for learning does that for you, the revolutionary. It does it for the learners who are under your sphere of influence, under your care, who are waiting to be empowered, who are matches waiting to be lit. Today is the birth of your story. Action from ashes. It doesn't matter where you've been or where you're going, what the destination was, but today I'm hoping is a turning point, that you will consider the design of the learning environment, the emotions and expression and the full tanks that every Black and brown learner walks into your learning environment with. And even if there are none in your care or in your school or in your villages, wherever you are, that anti-racism is all of our fight. If there's injustice anywhere, it is a threat to justice everywhere, is what Martin Luther King says. And my hope is that today, she was filled with knowledge, Claudette Colvin, and she's still alive. She was filled with knowledge that made a change, and she enacted a choice. There was something she said no to because her yes was far greater. What will you say no to? What will you respond yes to? This is our journey. Today is your day.
Ooh, yes. So I don't know about you all. I am ready to go. I am ready. I have some knowledge. There's more knowledge in this book. Here is a quote that we're highlighting. Would you like to read it, Tisha?
Sure. It says, "We cannot, in good conscience or in good teaching, stand by and watch another generation be marginalized because we don't take action. Inaction is agreement. Inaction is racism. Inaction is injustice. Inaction is inhumane. Inaction is not an option."
So today is that changing point. Today, we have new knowledge. Through this book, we have new knowledge. Let's find the brilliance in every single one of our students through our design. We are able to design for this. It's so exciting. So please learn more. We have our digital handout for you where you can get more resources. Tisha, there are many people wanting to know, the title of your poem and can we get the words to that poem? So keep an eye out. Look,
We'll add it to the handout.
Yeah, we will add it to the digital handout. And I do want to acknowledge that we remember Tamir E. Rice, who was fatally shot in 2014 by Cleveland police. He was 12 years old. He was 12 years old. So you've dedicated this book to Tamir.
And his mom wrote the foreword, and she believes in universal design for learning. She believes in having the arts infused in education. She's been a wonderful support for the message of the book. So please donate if you can.
And we thank you all for being with us today. I am choked up, Tisha, I have to say, because this work is so important. We can't lose one other child. We can't lose one other student from our classrooms, and we don't have to. That's the good news, is we don't have to. So please read Tisha's book. It is one of those books that I catch myself in the middle of the day. I'll go, wait, there's a part in there, and I'll go and I'll reread it again. So depending on where you are in your journey, there's something here for you. There are so many strategies and tools and just beautiful language in there. So please use our code to save 25% on this. And here's just a little bit of information about CAST that we need to share. So research with us. We're looking for middle school science teachers, middle school English and social studies, teachers and students. We have some wonderful opportunities for you to collaborate with us at CAST. You can keep in touch with us, stay up to date with what's happening at CAST through signing up for our newsletter. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear how this webinar was for you. What other webinars would you like for us to do? And before we leave, I invite you all to share for a moment something maybe that you've learned from this webinar, some action that you're going to take because of your involvement and your participation with us today. As we're in this construction zone of being able to build more robust learning opportunities, to see the brilliance in every one of our students, what are you going to do because of the knowledge you gained today? So please take a moment and share with us what your actions will be. Some are saying, buy the book. Yes, definitely. Invite student voice.
Yes.
Honoring by invitation, setting the table. Tisha, thank you for your work. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with us today some pictures, some of your own personal exploration and journey with all that's happening in our world and our time. This is our time. So thank you for being here and for inspiring so many of us today.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, David, Mindy, and Nathan behind the scenes, and to our captioner as well. Thank you so much.
So as we started with songs, and the songs that inspired you all from 14 years of your birth to this closing where we're all going to go take some action. Have a wonderful weekend from all over the world. Thank you for those of you who joined from different time zones and from all around the United States and world. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all.